Hello, I'm Julia Dreblow, the founder of SRI Services, and this presentation is to talk you through the new version of Fund EcoMarket. The first version was launched in 2011. We're now on version 3, and these slides will run you through the changes that we've made. First of all, to say though that we're able to do this thanks to our partners who help us to keep the website and everything we do free to use. Their logos are shown below, and we're hugely grateful to them for all of their support. We show their logos on the site and their funds are listed first, but otherwise they are treated exactly the same as every other fund in the market. It's important this information is whole of market, and we treat everyone in a balanced way, so that's basically how we run things. So let's start with what Fund EcoMarket is. Basically, it's a free-to-access, whole of sustainable, responsible and ethical investment fund market database tool. We get our information direct from fund managers. It's been designed for UK financial services intermediaries. Initially, by that we meant financial advisors and planners, but increasingly the tool is used by wealth managers, portfolio planners and others, because we carry information that others don't. And we do, however, make the site open to everybody to use. Why? Because the purpose of our business is to help change how people invest. But please be aware, we're not regulated, we're not authorised, we don't deal with members of the public, we can't give advice. We're simply collecting information from managers and publishing it on the site in such a way that makes it easier for people to find funds that meet clients' needs. So what's new? Well, firstly, we've brought Fund EcoMarket onto the SRI Services company site, and we've completely redesigned all the layout. We've made the areas easier to navigate, the filters in particular. The numbers grown and grown over time, and the previous site had become unmanageable. So we now have over 280 filters that are to do with sustainability, responsible ownership, ethical issues, etc. And we've split them by fund and fund management company, so you can see what applies across the board for an entire fund management entity, and also those things which are just fund specific, so relating to an individual investment that a person might have in their portfolio. We've redesigned the fund information, also the layout of the individual funds, because some of the fund managers have given us a huge amount of information to make sure the transparency bit really is clear, and given us lots and lots of links, etc. So we've laid that out, made it easier for people to navigate. We've added approximately 70 new filters this year. Those are all marked with the words new in brackets after them, so you can see which ones are the new filters. Some of those we're still waiting for fund managers to respond to, so some of them are looking pretty sparse at the moment, but this is the way it goes every year. We've added in a new text field for fund objectives, so that fund managers can say what the fund is specifically set up to do. Obviously, with the SDR coming along, people are being encouraged to focus on objectives a lot more, as they should. New contact us buttons for fund managers, so that if you, as a financial advisor or an investment professional, if you wish to get in touch with the fund management companies who run the funds, you've now got contact details on a lot of the funds, and we've improved the print and generate report options to make it easier for intermediaries to have the right information, the audit trail, and put information on their files. The next few slides are going to talk you through the filter options that you can use to generate fund lists. So this is what you first see when you go into the database. There are 3 sections of fund filters that you can use. There's fund basics, full fund information filter options, and fund management company filter options. So the first filter option is very much as it says on the tin. You've got product type, asset type, geographic region, and then also how we classify the fund by SRI style, which is just intended to help people to get started to understand broadly what the fund focuses on. So this next filter area, the full fund information, so this is individual fund specific information only, is the same information we had on the previous database, but it's set out completely differently, hopefully to make funds and client aims easier to search for and easier to generate lists more quickly. Now, we've split it into 4 areas: sustainability and environmental, social and ethical, governance and financials, methods, aims and intentions. So going into, for example, the climate change and energy button, which is obviously a topic that so many people search for. I've ticked on one of the examples here, which is the coal, oil and gas exclusion filter, which is one of our most commonly used filters, always has been. You'll notice that there's the hover over text, which gives you a little bit of information on what the filter is getting at, which will be more useful on some filter options than others, but this basically allows you to search by that criteria, and you can tick as many as you like from as many different boxes as you wish. Some more areas, some you'll be familiar with, some will be newer. Ethical values-led exclusions, we've pulled them into their own separate group. Targeted positive investments, because a lot of people are asking for specific percentages of funds now. We've increased that area also and brought those numbers together so you can see specifically which funds target particular areas of investment. Social environment, social and employment, also an area that we've expanded recently, and impact methodologies. Now, it's a broad area. A lot of funds in this area aim to help deliver change, but this focuses on the specific methodologies and where people invest and whether or not funds are measuring positive impacts and specifically aiming to generate those positive impacts, which is the all-important difference, the intentionality of the fund. The next section then is about fund management company-wide information. These are strategies that apply across the entire fund management entity. So they would apply to all of the funds that the fund manager runs, not just the sustainable funds that we're listing here, and ethical funds and responsible ESG funds. So we split it into two broad areas just to try and give it some kind of structure. Firstly, who's involved in the process and who are we talking about here? So that's a little bit of information on what the company is and how they operate also, and who does what, who they work with, who they're affiliated with, what the resources there are, and also what accreditations they've gone for as an organisation, so who are they as an entity. And then the next bit is what are they specifically doing and how are they operating. So company-wide exclusions, what they're doing on the engagement side, transparency, climate change and net zero. This area is often overlooked, but it's hugely important. Obviously, we want to encourage all fund management companies to be doing a great deal more across all of their investment strategies. And this section really helps you to understand who's doing what across everything. So here we have an example of the fund management company information. Also, responsible ownership, stewardship, terms like that would apply to this. But these are things that an asset manager does across the board, across all of their assets. We've grouped them together as best we can to try and help make it easy to navigate and discuss with clients. The way we set up this slide, it basically shows you after you've clicked on something, it shows you that what you've selected is shown down the bottom of that box. And of course, you can click on as many other areas as you wish or clear the filters as you're going along. And then, of course, you can come down to the fund list itself. So we list all the funds in the market. Here are a few examples. The basic product information is listed at the top, and you can sort by those different filter options. You'll see the little arrows next to the headers on each of the columns. And you've got the more information box on the right-hand side, which you go into for the full information on an individual fund. Or you can click on our new dial shifter icon to explain to see explanation of how the fund manager says that fund and the fund management company are helping to shift the dial, moving investment from brown to green. So some more examples here. You'll see that you've got different product types which are available, different regions, different asset types, and of course the launch dates are shown, which helps you to identify which fund it is that you're looking at. And just to point out, we don't only list funds that are partner funds, we list all the funds that we can find. Basically, the fund managers who are our partners have their funds listed first, if you like, a bit like on Google, but all funds in the market are invited to put information onto our site. We list all the funds we can find, and we approach everybody for information. Some fund managers don't supply us with information, but we do always ask. So the next few slides are about the more detailed fund information, the text fields and beyond. This is what you find under the more information button. We ask fund managers to give us as much information as they can without going over the top, so an amount that people will likely to be able to read, and then accompany that with links through to their website by means of evidence and support information that may be required. So when you've clicked on the more information, you jump into an individual fund. The first information that will show is the top section of text, which gives you the fund basics, and then if supplied to us, fund objectives, and some basic fund stats on the information, the size of the individual fund, plus the level of assets the fund manager has got a screened or themed strategy, and their total amount that's assets under management, and the date at which that information was collected. And then you've got if supplied, contact information. So if you'd like to message the fund manager, you've got details that we ask them to publish on our site now of how you can get in touch with them with further requests for information. So fund objectives are shown there. Again, that's an SDR thing that fund managers will be required to set out their sustainability objectives. So we're encouraging fund managers to do that. Then there's an overview of basically what the fund is, so you can help have a conversation, get started and understand what the fund basically does. And then you go into the filter section. All the filter boxes that I showed you earlier, those that have been ticked by this fund manager, will show in the filter fields on this page. So here's a further example of a fund. As I touched on briefly a moment ago, so SDR will require funds that choose to use the sustainability labels to set out within their objectives what they're setting out to do and to achieve on the sustainability side. But all funds will have objectives whether or not they have labels. And also to point out on this one, just be aware people will present their funds slightly differently. We're not looking to put round pegs in square holes. Fund strategies vary. They are different. They are designed to do different things. They invest in different ways. So we don't instruct fund managers to word things in any particular way. We want them to explain specifically what they do so that the right funds can get matched to the right clients. Now the next area, if you look at the teal stripe along the bottom of the slide here, is the policy area. Now people often don't get to look at policy information, but what a fund policy does is describes to you what the fund strategy is, which is those issues that the fund manager will look at. Is it focusing on environmental, social, governance, ethical, any particular issues? And then also will tell you how it is approaching, how the fund is approaching those issues. So are they trying to influence companies, or are they staying away from particular companies? Are they selecting companies that meet particular criteria? So we don't ask fund managers for full chapter and verse here. The site would become pretty much unmanageable, but this will give you a summary of basically what the fund sets out to do. And it's super important when you're giving advice on this area that you actually know what a fund is designed to do. What are the things they look at and how are they dealing with those issues? Otherwise you're making assumptions which may be way off the mark. So always important to look at the policy information. So the next tab along is process. This basically tells you the steps or the management processes that are in place on the sustainability and ethical and ESG side. So basically what a fund manager does to go from those things that it cares about and how it wants to deal with them into the reality of actually deciding where the fund is going to invest. So what steps are they going through? How do they make their decisions in order to decide what does and doesn't get into the fund? So we've called the next tab along corporate, which is basically getting at information about the entire fund management group or fund management entity. We asked people to describe the key important features of what they do across the board as providers of sustainable and other funds. This will often include information on resources, affiliations, how they deal with voting, and just different activities. And again, you will see that this information is very different between different fund managers. So this next tab is something new, something that's seeing the light of day for the first time with this version of the website. It's something we've called Dial Shifter. Now this is an idea that we have trademarked, which is all about getting fund managers to describe how they are helping shift the dial from brown to green. Now this is not about implying that any fund or fund management group is somehow imperfect or investing in perfect companies or other assets, be they bonds or whatever. They're not, but we're just trying to highlight and draw out, well, okay, how is it that you're trying to improve things for the world around us? And again, fund managers have described this in different ways, but we've asked them for 2 lots of text. We've asked them to keep it to under 150 words for each. One is relating to the fund, and the other, focused specifically on net zero, is asking about the fund management entity or organisation. What are they doing specifically to help shift the dial? So the final tab here then is headed literature. These are links back to fund management company websites. We do not carry any literature on our site from fund managers for compliance reasons. So these link you back onto the fund management sites. The first section, we ask people to give us up to 5 links of information that they want us to share with intermediaries on basically it can be anything from, it can be links through to blogs and articles, through to legal information like prospectuses, further information on policy and strategy, whatever the fund manager likes. Then the two additional tabs there are fund holdings, so information on where the fund actually invests, the companies or other assets. They may be bonds, they may be shares that the fund holds, and then voting records, so information on how the company, the fund management company, votes their shares at AGMs and EGMs. These two elements being the two crucial differentiators, really the outcome of the entire process of running a sustainable, responsible, ethical fund, being where they actually invest and what they actually do with the assets that they invest in, the relationship that they have with the entities involved. The next few slides then are going to give you some suggestions and information about how to search for funds on the site. So of course there are different ways you can search on the site. One of the easiest is by typing in the name of the fund or clicking on the logos if it's a partner fund, so you can click on the logo to go direct to all the funds that are offered by that partner. The other way you can search for funds or find funds, of course, is by using the filter options on the site, which is one of the main parts of the site. So you can click as many as you like, and you can put them in any combination. Just be aware though, some of the fund filters don't actually have very many funds that tick those boxes. So with some of them you may land up with no funds if you have a combination of maybe a few different filters that have only got 3 or 4 funds that do those specific things. So you may like to play around with it whilst you're using it. And the system will show you what you've clicked as you're going through when you're narrowing down your search. So for example, what you've done here is to request an OIC fund, which is either equity invested or mixed asset. It will bring all the two together. Globally invested, focused on environmental issues, so environmental focused classification from RSRI styles, so not necessarily the whole sustainability range, but they also want to make sure your client's saying they want to avoid armaments manufacturers, they want to help generate positive impacts and real world outcomes, but they want those impacts to be measured, and they also want, if relevant to the holdings, they want the asset manager to be engaging with companies to encourage them to align to TCFD's Task Force for Climate Related Financial Disclosure if they're dealing with banks and insurance companies. So again, focusing on the net zero bit across the board, as well as the individual fund specific requirements. And that particular example gives you 13 examples, which 5 of them are our fund partners, the rest aren't. And you'll have all the information presented together. You can go into the more information, or you can select individual funds to send to print and save. And to give you just a little bit more information on what the site can do, so this example is maybe a client or a portfolio manager, perhaps who's looking for something a bit different, so not interested in equities but looking at fixed interest and infrastructure instead. And what they're looking for is funds that have got responsible supply chain management or themes, funds that are members of Climate Action 100 Plus or IGCC, which are the leading investor groups who are pushing for higher climate change standards. They're also looking to search GFANZ, which is an investor group that came out of COP26, again hugely important. And they're looking at information around voting policy, wanting to make sure that the fund manager is aligning to net zero targets. So this gives you an example of 60 funds, printed the first few here. So lots of different things that you can search for here, and of course at any point in time you can go into more information on the individual funds, etc. And these last couple of slides are going to be about report generation, basically so that you can save information for the advisors or wealth managers audit trail and for your records. So if or when you go into an individual fund, when you get into the fund entry and you've got all the information in front of you, you've then got 3 options. You can go back to the fund list, you can print or save the information to PDF for the individual fund, or you can create a client report. And if you create a client report, you'll see the form below which pops up asking you to put in some information. You can put as much or as little information as you like. It's there to help you with your audit trail for your compliance processes, not for our business. And of course, you don't have to do that just via an individual fund. You can do that via the main fund list when you've used a load of searches and you've come up with some criteria that's generated a list of funds. You can see how a report would look here. You've got basically the client's name, advisor name, who it's from, your email address if you wish, and the date it was created. I didn't actually use any filter options on this particular one. I clicked on just individual fund names, and that will then give you a list of those fund names, and you'll get the full fund names listed below with their basic information. Or you can click the box for more information to have the full fund information, but be aware a lot of those reports are really, really long, so don't click print by accident. A lot of these fund managers have thankfully completely taken the transparency thing to heart and given us lots and lots of information here. So all that remains is to say thank you for listening. I hope you found this useful. Please do like the video if you did indeed find it useful. Subscribe to our channel, please, and please spread the word. Pass this information on to people. What we do is free to use. As we say, it's whole of market. We're supported by our wonderful partners, of course, who help keep the site free. But we really do need to change how people invest. We're on a mission to help people do that. Please help us spread the word. Thank you very much.